With a lot of us working from home now, and especially with homeschooling, workspace is at a premium. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make this really simple fold down desk. Now the desk that I've made measures 70 centimeters wide by 50 centimeters deep. So if you'd like to follow along and match my dimensions, I have got a cutting list available. And if you don't fancy cutting the plywood yourself, you can show this cutting list in store and they should be able to cut it for you. I'd recommend getting the lid cut to size and then just ask for 4 strips of 117mm wide boards. That way you can cut them to length yourself. If you do want to cut the pieces yourself, then a simple circular saw with an edge guide makes it really easy. Like I say, you can cut the pieces to length with a handsaw, or you can use a circular saw and a square as a guide to cut the pieces. With the pieces for the frame cut, it's time to assemble it. A scrap piece of plywood can be used to mark where to drill pilot holes. A countersink, make sure the heads of the screws sit below the surface of the plywood. We'll fill these later. The frame can then be assembled with glue and screws. I added a divider to the frame and secured it in place with screws and glue too. I also added a shelf in the same way. Using glue and screws is okay, but if you want to add a bit more strength, I highly recommend adding some wooden dowels. I drilled 8mm holes, added glue and then hammered the wood dowels in place. This will add a lot of strength to the joints. The last pieces to add are 2 strips at the top of the frame. These will be used to attach the desk to the wall later. They get glue, screws and dowels too. When the glue is dry, it's time to fill the holes and any voids with wood filler. There isn't any need to fill the holes and voids in the top because we'll be adding the wooden shelf later. Once dry, it can be sanded flush and cleaned off ready to paint. Before we start painting though, now is a good time to add the hardware. I added 2 90-degree hinges using a scrap block as a guide and marking the holes with a pencil. I could then add screws to the hinges and make sure it closes okay. I did originally try adding a couple of gas struts, thinking they would offer a lot of support to the lid, but they really didn't. They worked well at keeping the lid closed, but when it was folded down as a desk, there was far too much movement, so I scrapped that idea and I added some chain instead. You'll see how I added that later. After removing the hardware, it was time to apply 2 coats of primer. Again, there's no need to paint the top, leave it bare because we'll be adding that wooden shelf later. Once dry, the primer could be lightly sanded, then 2 coats of grey furniture paint could be applied. The top shelf is just a pine board. I cut it to 72 centimeters long, that way I've got a 10mm overhang on both sides. I decided to use a wax stain for the solid wooden top. Be sure to leave a clear section on the underside of the board because we'll be attaching it to the frame with glue. Wood glue and a few clamps is all that's needed to secure the top shelf in place. I made sure the overhang was even on all sides before adding the clamps. Taking your suggestions from the DIY on a Budget Facebook group, I added a splash of colour to the front of the shelf with some magenta paint. I wanted to add some colour to the lid too, so I masked off a geometric pattern and applied 2 coats of teal furniture paint. Once dry, the tape can be removed, revealing the pattern. It's almost ready to hang on the wall, but first I drilled 3 mounting holes. I could then sit the frame on a table at a height suitable for my chair to fit underneath. Using the drill to leave slight marks on the wall shows me where I need to drill with a masonry bit later. Tape works great as a depth guide. I could then add a wall plug into the holes. 3 screws secures the frame to the wall. Now the hinges can be fitted and the lid attached. I wanted to make sure the lid wouldn't flex when it was folded down as a desk, so I added some chain to keep it rigid. The chain gets secured in place with screws, making sure it's taut when the lid is folded flat. The last piece of hardware I added was a latch to make sure the lid would remain closed. I'm really pleased with how this fold down desk turned out. I hope it can be a great space saver for you, because working from home, and especially if you're homeschooling, finding desk space and places to work can be a nightmare. So having something you can fold down, do your work and fold it away at the end of the day for a nice clean setup, it's got to be the way forward. Plus, when things start to get back to normal, this would make a great drinks cabinet. Thank you all for watching. I really hope you liked this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you click subscribe and don't forget to click the bell icon next to it. That way you'll get a notification as soon as we upload a new video. Thank you all for watching.